Thank you very much. I'm going to start, if I might, with just a couple of points before I start my main speech. The first is just, I see the auto cues have gone now, which is just as well. I'm fairly low tech. This is because many years ago I was a priest in the Church of England, and it was Palm Sunday, and we just started using radio mics. And we'd all gathered on this particular Palm Sunday up the road, about 300 yards up the road. So all the different churches had joined us. And instead of there being 50 of us, a normal congregation for a Sunday morning, there were about 450. And we're all crammed into this room, and we were all singing Hail Thee Festival Day, which I think has 27 verses. We'd sung all 27 verses at least 4 times. And now some of the older members of the congregation, we were going to incidentally walk behind a donkey down to church for Palm Sunday, and somebody obviously with a bucket and spade afterwards, in case the donkey was taken unawares. But some of the older members of the congregation were already seated in the church. I'm going to do a polite version of what the vicar said to me. The vicar was getting very irritated by the time we'd got through all 27 verses 4 times. And he turned to me and he said, how long is this procession going to last? Which, of course, was broadcast down to the church, 300 yards down the road. So I'm always rather worried when I've got a radio mic on. And I note that Gordon Brown is appearing later today. Just make sure you take the radio mic off him before he leaves. The other thing, I was interested listening to the... that's a very old photograph and wrong time of the year as well, I know. I was interested in the conversation earlier about whether you can grow the market or whether you're basically just trying to switch people from one product to another product. This is very live conversation in the Labour Party at the moment. We're very keen on switchers. I'm helping run the by-election in Kingswood, which is next Thursday, and I tell you, we get completely overexcited when we meet a switcher, somebody who's gone straight from Conservative to Labour. But the good news is, and you can applaud this line if you want, there are lots of them. I got 2 claps there. That frankly, is not enough switchers. But serious points. Look, the creative industries are both our present joy and our future prosperity. Creativity is one of the 5 most important skills we all need to foster, cherish, and develop. It brings other skills alongside it, problem solving, analytical thinking, teamwork, self-confidence, and the ability to articulate an argument without resorting to fisticuffs. Over the past decade, you will all know this, but the creative industries have grown at 1.5 times faster than the rest of the economy in the UK. They've contributed billions of pounds of business activity and exports, and they now generate more wealth than aerospace, the life sciences, and the automotive sectors combined. And yet nearly all political debate in this country is about all the other industries other than the creative industries. That's why the creative industries, I can assure you, will be at the heart of Labour's key mission, which is to grow the British economy faster than any other economy in the G7. Yes, that's ambitious. Yes, we can only do that if we grow the creative industries, at least at the pace that they've been growing in the last few years, and I would argue much faster. Nobody can doubt, of course, that advertising will be central to that business model. We export our ideas all around the world. There are so many adverts that we can all think of. I think every time anybody mentions in my office the advertising, I just immediately start thinking of R. White's lemonade. You can't say it, can you, without going lemonade? And I'm a secret lemonade drinker, and you can't fit quicker than a quick fit fitter. And I also loved quite recently, I think it was in 2021, Dove's advert, which reverses a girl applying her makeup, a young girl applying her makeup, because it's so clever. It draws you in. You wonder what's going on. And it has a message as well on behalf of Dove. It intrigues you, it tells a story, and then the final slogan, "Let's change beauty," is beautiful in itself. I mean, there are so many from my childhood that I still remember. Lorraine Chase, "Were you truly wafted here from paradise?" Nah, Luton Airport. and so many others. But I think actually referring to the Super Bowl earlier, I had this terrible fear that I was going to be gazumped because I think my favorite ad, or the funniest ad I've seen in recent years was a Super Bowl advert, which was the advert for Doritos. I don't know whether you've seen it. There's a pregnant woman lying in her stirrups for her ultrasound, and presumably her husband or partner is standing there casually eating Doritos. And she sort of shouts at him, "What? Eating Doritos?" And he sort of waves his Dorito, and you can see the baby sort of move its hand as if it's reaching out for a Dorito, and he starts going like this, like that. And the woman then takes the Dorito off and throws it to the other end of the room, at which point the baby expels itself immediately. It's a very clever advert. And I suppose it makes the point that advertising is not one-dimensional or even two-dimensional, it's multi-dimensional, and it relies on so many other skills from so many other parts of the creative industries. And that's one of my central points, I suppose. It's the E.M. Forster thing about only connect, that advertising cannot survive without the skills of so many other industries. The creative industries, for that matter, don't exist in silos. You need photographers, designers, stylists. Some people tell me I need a stylist. Storytellers, actors, musicians, graphic designers, administrators, a whole team. And really good ad campaigns now don't just happen in one medium. They are cut, spliced, sliced, used, diced, reused in a multiplicity of different media. Just some key principles for the Labour Party as they apply to the creative industries. First of all, let's stop denigrating creative degrees in our universities. Even an English degree, which is what I have, might be useful if you want somebody to be able to tell a story or write creative copy. I'd also like to end government adverts suggesting that ballet dancers are somehow less valuable than cyber experts. We need to get it into our heads in this country that these industries are just as important, and these jobs are the jobs of the future. They are our future prosperity. Secondly, we want to reform the apprenticeship levy in the UK. It's a great project, but it simply doesn't work for the creative industries. That means we have to install flexibility and portability and an ability to cooperate between different countries in order to deliver a proper apprenticeship system in the creative industries. Thirdly, we in the Labour Party want every single child to have a good creative education, not just because it releases their personality and their confidence, or because it enables people to walk in other people's shoes, but because it is a force multiplier, improving standards in maths and sciences and languages and in every other aspect of education. And it pains me that we have lost so many music teachers, drama teachers, and other creatives in the education system. It's not something we're going to be able to change overnight, but we're absolutely determined that every single child should have a proper creative education. We also know that talent is everywhere in our country, but opportunity is not. So this cannot be a London-only strategy. It has to be based on developing clusters of creativity up and down the country. I want to say something briefly about continuity and stability, because it was very nice to see the Secretary of State here just a moment ago. I would just point out that she's the 12th Secretary of State in 14 years. Now, I do want there to be another Secretary of State this year, but it's an important principle that industry needs a degree of continuity and stability, not only within a government, but also between governments. And there are things that we will do that will be the same as are being done at the moment. All the regulatory stuff that was referred to earlier, we will be pursuing in, broadly speaking, the same way. We also want to provide as much stability, economic, regulatory, and fiscal stability as we possibly can. And that's why, for instance, you'll have seen that Rachel Reeves has already committed that we will not be increasing corporation tax at all for the full term of a Labour government in the next Parliament if we're elected. I also believe that there should be stability in who gets to be the Minister for Creative Industries, and that should last for a whole Parliament, but I don't think that Keir Starmer has actually made that commitment yet. We also need to make sure that the creative industries can prosper financially. Yet these have been very difficult years for many people. Inflation, the writers and actors strikes in the United States, COVID, and a decade of economic austerity have all provided very significant challenges for the creative industries. The industries rely heavily on freelancers, of course, more than 50% of those who work in the creative industries, which is a much higher number than in any other industry. And many of them got not a penny of support during the pandemic, so many have struggled. Small music venues are also closing at the rate of 1 or 2 a week, and that has a knock-on effect for every other part of the creative industries. I also worry that the pattern of remuneration for artists and authors, and I use the term artists and authors in the broadest possible sense, including everybody who has a creative engagement in producing intellectual property, the pattern of remuneration has changed dramatically, with streaming paying a bare smidgen of what an artist might have once earned from selling records or CDs. And this is a very important principle for the Labour Party. Artists need to be rewarded. The commercial sector and the supported sector need to walk hand in hand and in harmony. And if you forgive my return again to my old profession as a priest, I would, and if you would also forgive the casual sexism of the King James Bible, in the words of the gospel, the labourer is worthy of his hire. I think it's a really important principle that we should make sure that there is proper remuneration for those who develop intellectual property. That means, of course, that we need to take artificial intelligence seriously, not least because it can be a very useful assistant, spotting patterns faster than the human eye and doing away with some of the drudgery. But the flash of genius, the quirky, unexpected twist, is the preserve, I would argue, of human intelligence. And we need to ensure that whatever else happens with artificial intelligence, artists and authors are able to exercise their economic and their moral rights over their works before they are ingested or scraped by artificial intelligence. One other thought that occurred to me after I'd written this morning is algorithms are wonderful. I'm very conscious that if I haven't heard of a movie, it's probably because the algorithm doesn't think that I'm going to be interested in it. And that's, in many ways, that's good because it means that I get to see the things that I'm most interested in. But what happened to serendipity? The sudden picking up a book that you never thought you'd be interested in, or watching a television program or seeing a movie that you never thought you'd be interested in. That, I think, is one of the challenges of the creative industries in the years ahead, maintaining that sense of serendipity so that we're not all just endlessly living in our algorithmic silos. My final point, I end with a challenge, which is a challenge to everybody in the room. I'm the MP for the Rhondda in the South Wales Valleys. If you came in and asked my 13 or 14-year-olds in any of my schools in the Rhondda, what would you like to be when you grow up? Lots of them would know what a doctor looks like, or a nurse, or a care worker, or a police officer. These are careers that have existed for a long time, and they fully understand what the first step is to end up being as a doctor or whatever. But would they know what it took to enter advertising? What would the first step be for them? Would they think of advertising as a possible career for them unless their parents had been in advertising, or their grandparents, or a cousin, or somebody like that, or somebody who was able to afford them a free internship, an unpaid internship for 6 months? Probably not. So I think if we're going to grow this sector, one of the things you need to do, and government will obviously need to help, but one of the things you need to do is make a career in advertising a possibility for every single one of the talented kids in the Rhondda who might otherwise never think of it. Thank you very much for your attention.